seeing huge blasts coming out of the sea, sending large ripples in all directions, hitting the closest land hardest, which I believe is going to be the Philippines. See some type of large cruise ship that is stuck out at sea, I believe, being caught up maybe in some type of a storm system, because it appeared to me that the ship didn't have any power. I see them hitting on the east coast of the United States. Philadelphia gets a little tiny bit of a shake. Northern part of New York, Buffalo, the Carolinas, and large activities going to ignite on the west coast of the United States. And this is where I saw a vision of several small, and maybe even one quite large, meteors raining down on Earth. And I know most of them burn up in the atmosphere, but these must have been huge because they didn't burn up in the atmosphere completely. Australia likely will get some type of tsunamis in the future. Not necessarily huge. I'd be more concerned if I don't know what this island is right here, if anybody lives on that island, but I'd be very concerned if I lived on that island. So we always have to be aware of storms that are coming in on the 11 days, the 11th and the 29th. Or if there's a hurricane coming your way that's even a 22, take cover. It's going to be serious. Mother Earth and Mother Nature have both been extremely restless lately, and I'm sure we can all agree on that. But soon, weather and Earth events are going to be the biggest headlines across the globe. The Earth is about to pop, and Mother Nature is about to move into a phase of complete fierceness, unlike anything that we have seen or witnessed thus far in our lifetimes. Massive record-breaking hurricanes, cyclones, tropical depressions, a massive uptick in both volcanic and earthquake activity, and a huge focus on the waters and water-related disasters. Today I'm going to go through some map scrying by gazing at the map and seeing which areas will be impacted the most, along with other specific weather predictions. And we're also going to look at all the names of the storms for hurricane season for both the Atlantic and the Pacific. We're going to look at the numerology of those storms and determine which storms are going to have the greatest potential for impact and also disaster. These are my shocking weather and earth predictions for the second half of 2025. Good day, beautiful souls. So are you all ready to step aboard the weather and earth roller coaster that's about to take off? The energies are about to come sweeping in this month of June. And when we step into July and August, it's going to become even more intense, with more crazy earth events hitting again in late October and November. So we're not out of it this year. This year is only just about to begin with the intensity. We're going to see hurricanes like even hitting in early December, storms hitting after the season has come to a close. Mother Earth is about to pop, friends. We all feel it. We've all been feeling it for a while. And I've been telling you this for quite some time. I predicted recently that we would see a significant eruption at Mount Etna. Well, this is playing out as soon as we stepped into the month of June. June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, big volcanic blasts occurred, one of them being Mount Etna. Significant eruptions also happened at Japan's Sakurajima volcano, another one that I pointed to, along with Hawaii's Kilauea, which is starting to erupt once again with a beautiful light show, to say the least. And all the volcanoes in which I pointed to on the map in one of the past weather prediction videos. So it's beginning, friends. It's definitely beginning. A while back, Spirit warned to watch for 3 large, significant volcanic eruptions to occur as a sign of some type of a huge Earth event that's going to take place. So some folks in the comments from Tuesday's Tea Time show suspect that there are the 3 big recent ones may be that sign. And I don't feel like that's quite the sign, friends. Maybe out Mount Etna being one of them, but I don't think it's quite here yet. Kilauea is always erupting. So it would have to be a huge Mount Kilauea eruption that causes evacuations, airline cancellations, and so on. So I feel it's going to be one likely in the area of Indonesia. And the other one I believe could be, but I'm not sure, somewhere along the Solomon Islands. And I feel that there are two of these big volcanic eruptions are going to occur on some type of an island location. One could be the Santorini Islands in Greece, which is another area I pointed to on the map in the last map scrying session that we did. So the third one that goes off, Spirit says will go unseen from the land, says the spirits. And it resides within the sea, and soon after the first two erupt, the third will then become seen around the world as the devastating footage that comes thereafter. So it's big, it's huge. This aligns with my past visions, friends. Again, going back all the way back to 2023 in my channeled prediction video of seeing a huge blast coming out of the sea, sending large ripples in all directions, hitting the closest land hardest, which I believe is going to be the Philippines, China, Japan, and even Indonesia. And many other lands are going to be hit. We also saw, just recently, first, we saw the oarfish, better known as the doomsday fish. We saw that wash ashore in Mexico on the Baja. That was a couple months ago. Another area that I previously warned for activity, which we're going to warn even more so today. And just this past week, and I'm recording this on June 4th, at the evening of June 4th, here in beautiful Sedona, Arizona. So just yesterday, I think it was June 3rd, another one of those oarfish, doomsday fish, washed up in Tasmania, right there near our friends down under in Australia. Tasmania was close, not exactly, but close to an area that I pointed to on the map in past map scrying videos. I pointed more towards Papua New Guinea because that's an area, in my opinion, that, well, with this recent one that just happened, I feel like this is, in my opinion, just a confirmation. It confirms my past prediction that something huge is going to happen around Australia that is going to send large waves to the northern parts of Australia. And I believe that'll be, again, up near Papua New Guinea. Now, some important time windows that are coming up, starting with the first window of time, which is going to be June 8th through June 14th. Especially watch for the date June 11th. If you have any storm system that is ever heading your way, not just in June, just in general, if you have a big storm system, especially a hurricane, cyclone, or anything that's significant heading in your direction on the date the 11th of a month, you better take cover, friends. Take that very seriously. And I'll tell you later why if you're not sure. The 11th and also the 29th of the month. And even the 22nd. But mainly the 11th. That's a big one. And again, I'll tell you more about that when we talk about the hurricanes and how they align with the numbers. And it's kind of really interesting. I've even went back to past hurricanes and looked at category 4 and 5 over the past 15, 20 years and calculated them. And what I got to show you is really, really interesting. We'll do that later at the end after we do some map scrying. The second window of time that is going to be between June 29th and July 5th. This is a very intense window of time where we are going to see major water-related events taking place. This includes great floods, potential, again, tsunami warnings, but actual tsunami realities as well. And I would say to watch out for these major volcanic eruptions, again, as a sign that Spirit pointed to. And I would say that they could occur perhaps in late June, perhaps early as June 25th. Or more so, again, between that window of time, June 29th through July 5th. Now, from, say, July 11th all the way through mid-August, yeah, we're going to see some of the greatest sudden random storms popping up in unusual places. This is going to be a very active window of time for even earthquakes. Many small earthquakes, but just a lot of them. Just too many. And even if there's 1,000 earthquakes that are small, it's still too many. And I just see a lot. And again, many small, but I see them hitting also unusual places. I see them hitting on the east coast of the United States. Philadelphia gets a little tiny bit of a shake. Northern part of New York, Buffalo, the Carolinas, and large activities going to ignite on the west coast of the United States. And all the way down the west coast, down South America too. And again, we'll look more deeper at the map in a bit. I also see an earthquake. I had a vision of an I'm assuming it was an earthquake. I mean, it felt that way to me because it trapped miners inside of some type of tunnels or mines of some sort. And I saw visions of this rescue efforts to retrieve these trapped miners. I believe I'm somewhere in South America, perhaps Chile, but I felt like I was somewhere in South America. South America is pretty big. I could have even been in Brazil somewhere. I also saw a tunnel collapse due to an earthquake. This was definitely related to an earthquake, and I believe this particular tunnel collapse is either within China or Japan. And maybe even India, because India jumps out at me for some big significant events that are going to take place in the near future with weather and earth events. Now, Spirit tells us to watch for this geomagnetic storm around a full moon. Spirit didn't say which full moon, so I'm not sure. It could be the one coming up June 11th. Could be the one in July. Not sure. But around the new moon, full moon, geomagnetic storm in the near future, and that'll be a sign of a series of large earthquakes that will follow. Turkey came to me, India, Pakistan, and China. And I felt that China is going to be hit with 3 massive quakes, causing major damage and a lot of long-term rescue efforts. This could also be related to some of the waves that are going to crash on the shores. I had some pretty wild visions about that as well. I have also been talking about water being a major influence throughout this whole entire year. And I said this back in my 2025 forecast and predictions put out in December of 2024. And now we're truly heading into this intense window where water is going to become the greatest focus. And this is going to influence other water type of events, whether it be connected to boats, ships, bridges, dams, jet skis. I mean, the list is on that list. Anything to do with water. But this, of course, will affect water events that could, in turn, affect boats, like waves, rogue waves. And then there's, of course, accidents, which has nothing to do with the weather or the earth, but it still has to do with the influence of water. So therefore, I feel like we're about to witness this major devastation when it comes to infrastructure across the globe, with water and earthquake events causing dams to crack and bridges to sway back and forth, causing many collapsed structures. I had this vision of seeing a roadway, the overpass of a roadway that crumbled down to the ground. And I saw in the vision vehicles that were caught underneath some of that debris. And I would say this has to be from some kind of quite large earthquake. Reminded me of the earthquake that happened back in California. I don't know when that was, back in the 80s or whatever. Wasn't that LA? And I remember seeing that. It reminded me of that. And now sometimes when certain things remind me of certain things, sometimes it's related to the same area. So maybe that's in California. I'm not sure. I can only tell you what my visions reveal. I also saw visions of ships out at sea and suddenly washed onto their side from this large wave. I saw also separately a vision of a freight ship, probably the same waves I would imagine, that almost overturns, losing tons of the cargo. I saw the cargo all flying off the ship, perhaps a few people with it. And I would imagine me seeing this vision would also tell us that there's going to be some type of video footage of it that will, be released in some way when these events begin to play out. I also had 2 different visions of a coastline that is totally devastated. And all along that coastline, I saw, small and large boats all washed up and floating upside down and sideways in the waters. It was really crazy. Even boats that were washed way up on the shore. So it had to be big wave related. I mean, it could be related to a hurricane. It was as if I was actually looking towards the coast from a small drone, we'll say, or say I was in a helicopter and I was looking towards the coast, seeing miles and miles of devastated coastline. And it appeared to me to go pretty far inland, where I saw vehicles piled together, tree limbs and debris covering everything, and what appeared to be, again, dozens and dozens, perhaps hundreds of square miles. It was as if I was again in a drone or a helicopter looking at this footage, which again, likely this footage will be something we'll see in the future at some point in time. And I have no doubt this is likely linked to my past channeled predictions, going back to 2023. And even some of my other predictions and visions and all kind of match up with this record-breaking earthquake and tsunami. And I have no doubt it's coming to the Pacific. The question is when exactly? And I believe it's coming really, really soon. This year makes sense to the 9 vibration, which is about humanitarian focus and humanitarian efforts, which usually means something disastrous happens to make people focus on helping others. And this also has a great part to do with these great awakenings that we're in, but it's going to become even greater when these events begin to play out. It's a way, Spirit tells me, of shaking the people and God shaking the people into the reality that we have to stop with the conflicts and not getting along with each other. And that's what it'll take. It'll take Mother Earth really shaking the crap out of things to make people realize it's not worth fighting with each other anymore. It's more worth coming together as one. So Spirit says both sides of the Pacific is going to erupt. 3 spots within the ring of fire. Especially, we will also see similar activities igniting in the Atlantic Ocean. Not necessarily in the near future. Specifically in the areas around the Caribbean areas, in the Caribbean Sea. So we'll have to look at the map in a bit and see what I get pulled to when it comes to scrying. Now, I've also seen visions of multiple coastlines being inundated by severe water devastation. I saw another vision of sandy white beaches. Sandy white beaches, friends. They're very clearly sandy white beaches that were all eroded. I also saw boats and even jet skis that were washed up on the shoreline. This feels more to me like the aftermath of a hurricane. And I would imagine this is somewhere in the Caribbean. That's where I would think maybe the Virgin Islands, for example. I know they got white sandy beaches. I know parts of Florida do, but I didn't necessarily feel like I was in Florida. Maybe part of Florida, but if I was more in the Keys. And they don't really have any beaches, at least in Key West they don't. They're all rock. So I'm also pulled to the southern coastline of Mexico, close to California, along that Baja Strip. And this could be where one of my visions play out. It could actually, where this vision specific with the white beaches. I don't know if they have white beaches. I've never seen the Baja. Never been there. But if they have white beaches, it could be there, along there. But now sometimes it could be like that double vision. 2 things at once. Again, we'll look at the map in a moment. But actually, this feels to me in that area of the Baja, feels like it's going to be hit by some severe hurricane activity. Or at least one big severe hurricane. And I see major issues with a storm, flooding, and even earthquakes hitting in and around Hong Kong. And then Wuhan, China jumped out at me on the map. And I feel like between Shanghai, China, and Wuhan, China, some type of major earthquake or weather events happening in that area. Now, this came to my mind. I believe in my channel predictions. Not that long ago either, within the past month or 2. Spirit said something about a big earthquake hitting near Beijing, China. And it felt like, like it was a target using some type of technology. That's what it feels like. But I remember that. That came to mind. It just came to my mind. As we're discussing Wuhan and Shanghai and this area of the globe. I also see evacuations in and around Indonesia. And I feel this is related to multiple, not just one, but multiple volcanic eruptions. And even concerns, maybe concerns around, a coming major eruption, so they start evacuating. And again, I get no detail. I can go into more detail when we look at the map. Sorry, I had a brain fart. Anyway, even with the water being a huge focus in the coming month, Drought is going to be inevitable for many areas as we see these record-breaking hot temperatures that start to hit in July and August, causing power outages and major concerns for the elderly in certain cities. This could be here in Phoenix. Well, not that I'm in Phoenix, but I'm in Arizona. But it could be down in Phoenix because I see lots of concerns for elderly being without air conditioning. And I just say Phoenix because it gets hot there, but Spirit did say it would be places that aren't normally, Phoenix is always hot, so that's normal. So I'd say somewhere that may not be so normal. And it might not be here, it might be over in Europe, England, UK, areas like that, because they're going to have major power outages and problems. So it could very well be there. Spirit does say dry places will soon after see major flood events, likely that last window of time being significant that I mentioned earlier from late October through the whole month of November. Another intense window of time. I still say July is the most intense of the year. Hopefully that'll be it once we get through that. And we will. It'll be good. It's all about spiritual ascension in July. That 7 vibration. Now, I see a plane that disappears over the waters. And I'm not sure what waters. Over the ocean, perhaps. Perhaps the Indian Ocean. Not sure if this is at all weather related, but it came to me when I was working on this. And it reminded me sort of the MH370. Yeah, y'all remember that? That missing flight. Except with this particular one, I feel like there's some type of recovery or at least a knowing of what actually happened and a location coming into light as to where it went. And I do believe that this is likely probably weather related. If it came to me when I was working on this, I would imagine it to be weather related. Now, I also see some type of large cruise ship that is stuck out at sea, I believe, being caught up maybe in some type of a storm system, because it appeared to me that the ship didn't have any power. And then I see boats and choppers heading towards the ship, which almost looks abandoned, but it's not, because, again, it felt to me like it had no power. I mean, again, I was working on weather stuff, so I would think this would be weather related, caught in the storm. At the same time, it could be cyber related, but I don't know if you could really cyber attack a ship. I have no idea. I'm going to go with the weather with that one. Because, again, I was working on weather stuff. And we also just witnessed the glaciers, what can happen to glaciers when they melt. The huge, giant landslide that occurred in Switzerland, taking out a small village. There's also, Spirit says, more to come for those mountains in Switzerland. Our friends in Switzerland, beware. The same location where this just happened is not done giving way, says Spirit. There's still some to go. Not as big, but there's still some to go. And also, I got pulled to the opposite side of those mountains. So maybe some friends in Switzerland could tell us where that is. But I felt pulled to the other side. And something giving way on the other side. And even places like Mount Rainier, which in coming years, not necessarily in the near future, but in coming years, definitely between now and I'd say 2030, is going to erupt. And that's loaded with glaciers. And when that happens, it's going to cause glaciers to melt. Even if it's a little eruption, even just minor, it's going to cause those glaciers to melt. And in turn, it's going to turn into what happened in Switzerland. So I feel like there's concerns around that volcano in the future. And that would be accompanied, of course, by mudslides and floods. And I feel Mount St. Helens will go again. And likely I feel Mount St. Helens will go before Mount Rainier. Now, hopefully my dyslexia didn't get it backwards. Another one we're going to see, another thing we will soon see, is not that it has to do with weather at all, but we can consider it an Earth event. And this is where I saw a vision of several small, and maybe even one quite large, meteors raining down on Earth. And I know most of them burn up in the atmosphere, but these must have been huge because they didn't burn up in the atmosphere completely. And I saw one hitting the ocean, perhaps somewhere in the Gulf Coast of America, out there somewhere, maybe closer to Mexico, causing a little splash of sorts, maybe some waves, but not like a tsunami or anything. And then the others feel to me to hit civilian areas, perhaps a small village. I felt like there were at least three. One of these felt like it could be in China, and then the third hit in the nighttime. Because I saw a vision of the third one hitting in the night, and I heard the hit, I heard the crashing, I heard horns blasting from a car, and I saw a blast of light. It almost looked like a missile. And Spirit's like, no, that's another meteor, not a missile. So that was interesting. So we're going to be seeing a lot more stuff. And that's still an Earth-related event because it's hitting the Earth. I mean, we'll still put it in the category anyway. I feel that soon we are going to witness new land masses that are going to rise from parts of the ocean and the sea, likely after an earthquake event. But also I saw landforms that are forming from a volcano. I saw a volcano basically seeping into the ocean, and kind of like what we saw in Japan, about a year ago, in southern Japan, started to form a little bit of a landmass. I see something more like that happening, and more on a larger scale, like it's forming a much larger type of little island or landmass. And I see a vision also of many fish floating on the surface, as if a school of fish are literally heading just above a volcano under the water before it blasts. I forgot all about that. I meant to mention that to you too, and excuse me. And that's what we have as far as specific predictions. And let us move on to some map scrying and a look at the hurricanes and the names and how they relate in numerology and the interesting discoveries that I have made. Beautiful tribe, I want to welcome you back to the channel. Welcome you to the channel. If you're new here, I am spiritual medium Joseph Tittel, aka Spiritman JT. We welcome you with open air hugs. And if you're new here and you want accurate predictions, prophecy, truth, and you want to vibe with our awesome tribe, be sure to smash that subscribe, the bell and all so that you get notifications. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up love button. So much time and effort goes into this, and if you're going to click any button besides subscribe, please let it be the thumbs up button, because it helps get this out to more people, helps our tribe to grow, and it helps us other content like this. If you want other predictions from other people to pop up on your feed, then hit that thumbs up button. Otherwise, you'll never see other stuff like this on your feed. Down below, you'll find the link to my newsletter. The other platforms, you can find me on Spotify, Rumble, and all the platforms down below, even shorts on TikTok and other platforms. So get down below, give me a follow in all those places. Check out the free newsletter. Sign up so you know what's going on. A big thank you to all the supporters of this channel, the members of the Subscribe Star community, which is also down below in the description, the members of the YouTube community, and all the contributors that make this free content possible. For everybody else, I thank you with infinite love and gratitude. Don't forget, you can join me every Tuesday for Tea Time, where we talk about world events, how they relate to predictions and prophecy with new predictions each week. And you can find more information about me at my website, Joseph Tittel, Tittel.com, or SpiritmanJT.com. Let us move on with more predictions by gazing at the map and seeing what the map pulls me to. We call this map scrying. It's like scrying is the technique like gazing into a crystal ball, except I come up with the technique of gazing at the map. And it seems to work really, really well. So let us get there. All right. Moving on over to Google Earth here and a little bit of that trance state of consciousness. And I'm going right to Tasmania first, just to show you that that's where the oarfish just washed ashore. And I'm recording the map scrying segment of this video on June 5th here in Sedona. And Tasmania, for those that didn't know, is right below Melbourne, Australia. And in the past videos, I was very much pulled up to this area of the globe. If I can get this thing to move. Why are you not moving? There we go. Papua New Guinea. And actually more than anywhere. Oh, this thing's just not cooperating. I was pulled over here to the Solomon Islands, which I still get that same vibe and that same feeling around the Solomon Islands. In the past, even going back many, many years, I had visions of islands sinking beneath the water. And I have no doubt that part of those islands in the future, I don't know when that future will be, but in the future will be part of these Solomon Islands and in this area that we're looking at right here. I'm pulled over to Fiji. I don't know much about Fiji other than I know it's beautiful. And I see something, sometimes I'm geographically challenged myself. I didn't realize that it was right along the Tonga. And the Tonga had a big blow a couple years back. Remember that? Well, there's going to be multiple big blows coming out of the Tonga in the future that will have an effect on Fiji. Now, I don't think that other one had an effect on Fiji. I get this strong feeling of like volcanic activity, and I don't know anything as to the location of volcanoes in this area, or if there is any, but apparently there must be, because I'm pulled to volcanic activity right here around Fiji, right around the same time that we see big activity at Tonga. And as I said in the past, when the big, as I call it, the rift, the crack beneath the Pacific takes place in that big eruption that's coming, that's going to have a ripple effect on the Earth. Not right away, but it will slowly ripple across the planet, affecting all the plates and everything. And this is going to be an area that's going to be greatly affected. And as I felt in the past, these northern parts over here of Australia likely will get some type of tsunamis in the future. Not necessarily huge. I'd be more concerned if I don't know what this island is right here, if anybody lives on that island, but I'd be very concerned if I lived on that island. And I'd say this area between Brisbane and all the way up to Port Douglas. And in the past, I've seen some major activity with flooding around Sydney, which they just had. And I just see continuous storms just pounding through this area of Australia, New South Wales, and even, again, all the way up to Queensland. I don't know what's like right around here, but lots of big storm action, flooding, and then wildfires. They're going to see more wildfires in Australia, especially down here in the southern part of Australia and this whole middle area. Again, I don't know what exactly is going on there, or who lives there, or if anybody lives in those parts, but that's what I'm getting pulled to. And of course, again, the Solomon Islands. Let's shrink this down. There we go. This thing's moving very slow. I don't know why. Maybe my computer. Let's move on up to Indonesia in this area of the globe. Singapore jumps out at me really strongly. Zoom in on Singapore. Oh yeah. Singapore, Malaysia. Between these two areas, not just only the earthquake activity that they are going to experience, but I see big storms coming through here that cause big flooding around Singapore and even in parts of Malaysia. This whole area of the globe, wish this would move a little faster for me. Come on, to the left. There we go. I see so much stuff happening. You know, I pointed to this area of the globe before for earthquakes, and then we saw what happened in Myanmar. Well, I'm still pulled to this area really strongly, all the way down to Sri Lanka, where I feel like there's going to be earthquake activity even beneath the sea here, as I was pulled to in the past. And, you know, I'm pulled to that same area, even though the earthquake was all the way up there in Myanmar. It's all connected, likely to these same little strips here, which I would imagine might be volcanic, because we are close to the Ring of Fire, and we know that there's lots of volcanoes in Indonesia, which is one of the areas earlier we were talking about in the specific predictions. A big blow in Indonesia. Now again, it's big storms, big storms that are coming across this area of the globe, bringing flooding to Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, even rescue efforts due to that as well. Not only that, Thailand's going to be shaken quite a bit when this earthquake activity starts to come. That may be more towards the latter part of the year, say November, October, around that time, after the big ones hit, because there are big ones coming. Really big ones. This map's not moving for me. What is your deal? Shrink it. And this was the area over here. If I can get this globe to move, it's not being my friend right now. See that little strip right there? That is the strip that I was pulled to in the past map scrying. An area of the globe that I felt was the area that was going to below, closer to the Philippines. So these lines to me are, I mean, I don't know, I would say are definitely some type of underwater volcanoes. And that's what's really, really going to blow. And this is going to cause so much to happen over towards the Philippines, Taiwan. It's going to affect China, Japan, of course. And besides that, even the big storms, I guess, what do they call them over there? Typhoons? I see big typhoons coming in, massive, hitting Taiwan and even causing flooding. I see one storm that kind of comes up and kind of goes into this area. So that's going to bring flooding to right off the East China Sea. It's going to bring flooding all up in here. Lots of flooding. Asia's going to get hit really, really hard. Even when we go over here to Nepal, Nepal jumps out at me as far as earthquakes. Yeah, right in here. Pulled to this area very strongly as far as earthquake activity. Big earthquake. I don't know why this map is moving so not fun for me right now. There we go. India. That's what I was trying to get in there on. More flooding towards the southern areas of India. Down in this area. I see a vision of not only just flooding, even in one of the cities or large cities in India. And I'm getting this vision now looking at the map. I see completely flooded streets, but also mudslides, raging rivers. And I'm not sure what city I'm in India. But I get this vision just as I stare at this map right here. And like this big like mudslide of some sort. Perhaps up here in the northern regions, but looks like a pretty jam-packed city of people. And with water being such the big focus, we're going to see deserts that become rivers in and around Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, I'm pulled to this coastline here, down along Somalia, all the way inwards towards Ethiopia. I'll shrink that a little bit. I don't know if that's related to some type of storms, some type of major earthquake activity right in between these two right here. It looks like it's pretty dry and deserty there. So it could be a combination of both floods and earthquake. For some reason, I also feel like that coastline right there along Somalia. So I don't know what's happening on that coastline. We got down here in Madagascar. Perhaps some type of even small tsunamis that hit right along here. I know that Madagascar had some pretty big earthquakes in the past. So we know that there's some plates and activity there. Sorry, am I making you dizzy? It's not my intention. To go up here. Excuse me. I'm going to shrink that a little bit. So I'm getting that. I know it's a ways away, but in the winter time, in the winter months, it feels very harsh up in this area to me. Very harsh, more harsh than normal. I know, I mean, Sweden, Switzerland, they get a lot of snow and all, but in these lower parts, Ireland, even in parts of France, much, much harsh winter than usual. down in Greece, this is where the Santorini Islands are that I pointed to on the map before, and not long after they had all those evacuations and such. I believe that's right in here somewhere. I think it's right in here. And Spirit says it will blow. That will blow. And it won't be as huge, but it will cause some cancellations of airlines, again, more evacuations, and this is going to bring more activity near Rome as far as earthquakes are concerned. And it feels like something's happening in the Mediterranean Sea, beneath the Mediterranean Sea. Not sure, again, if that would be earthquake related, but I'm pulled even just to this particular area right in here. And when this blows in this area volcanically, I would expect there to be some pretty big quakes and aftershocks in Athens and on both sides. What's over on this side? Turkey. Is that what that is? And the island of Cyprus jumps out. Very, very strong. The island of Cyprus. I don't know what's going on in Cyprus, but it feels to me that it makes me feel that there's something, not so good going on there. Maybe politically, I'm not sure. But I feel like the good Lord is going to shake this area of the globe as things begin to shake. And they are beginning to shake. Something right there, something really big happening. Let's write this down. Saudi Arabia floods. Even Iran's going to have some type of quite destructive earthquake in the northern parts. So I guess that would be up here. Now, I know we just pulled out of Italy. There it is over there. I see flooding happening in Italy, especially near Venice. Some kind of problems that are going to evolve around the waters that are in Venice. Or is that in Greece? I'm sorry, Venice, Greece. I told you I was geographically challenged at times. But I also do see flooding happening in the lower part regions of Italy. It's something with the waters in Venice. Venice, Italy, Venice, Greece, wherever Venice is. And I'm only just seeing this in visions. I'm not pulled to that area. I'm just looking at between Italy and Greece. I get this vision of flooding and something stormy and some kind of an effect on the waters, specifically in Venice. I don't know if that's the waters because Venice is all waters, or if they mean the drinking water. I'm not sure, but something with the waters in that area. Again, this area of the globe needs to be very prepared for the winter months. Crazy storms that are unlikely ever seen in these areas. So, for example, if you don't get hurricanes, then you're going to get hurricanes. Even some type of tornado activity happening around the United Kingdom. I don't know if that's even common, but I feel like there's some kind of tornado activity, and then that's going to even run off even in parts of Germany, which is interesting. I don't know where else has tornadoes, but that's what we're going to see. We're going to see things that we don't normally see happening in places that they don't normally happen. In the United States. All right, let's look at the hurricanes. My feeling on hurricanes. Because as I said earlier in the video, I feel like this area of the globe is going to get just pounded by storms. Storms, likely the hurricane, flooding, the Baja Peninsula, right along here, mainly on the Mexico side. But I would think that being San Diego's right on that border there, that San Diego is going to be affected by this as well. And it feels to me even parts of Los Angeles are without power and have issues with some flash flooding going on, which would make me believe that there's some type of a hurricane system that's kind of coming in this way or coming up this way. I don't know which way they flow, I think it's more coming down this way, and then the edges of it's hitting along Los Angeles and coming down. Feels like it's coming across or down. It feels hurricane related. Remember what I said about those 11s and 22s? Beware. Or, oh, you didn't see that part yet. You'll hear about that later. The Gulf is just going to become very, very, very active. This whole area down here in the Gulf is extremely active this year. I feel like something's coming up along the coast here between South Carolina and North Carolina. I don't know if that's a tropical storm or a storm like what hit last year in the North Carolina region, but our friends in those Carolinas need to be very, very aware. It feels to me like it may even be coming up into part of Tennessee. Pulled to my map now, froze again. There we go. I'm pulled to New Orleans. Could New Orleans see their next Katrina? It's more tropical systems, Spirit says. More tropical systems are going to move into these areas here, especially Louisiana, even through Houston and Texas. And Texas is just going to be in for it when it comes to different weather systems. Remember what the Spirit said. It's a targeted state, whatever that may mean. Take it as you will. San Antonio, Texas. And I just hear this whisper, there's some kind of hurricane activity that's going to hit Texas. Which I would imagine would have to be around Houston or this area, unless it's coming from the other side and straight across. That could be. Excuse me. There's something with the Mississippi River. I'm not sure what it is, but something with the Mississippi River. And then we have Mississippi, and Mississippi River is right up here. I would imagine that's like some type of major flooding along the Mississippi River. This has got to be storm related. Perhaps a system, tropical system, or hurricane coming right up here, clipping New Orleans, heading up here towards Memphis. Now, in the past, I felt that there was going to be some type of earthquake activity in Memphis and in Tennessee, in this whole circled area. That could be part of what may be affecting the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River feels like it's raging in some type of fury. So I would imagine that's some type of flood related. And I don't know if there's any dams in this area, but I feel like in this part of the East Coast, somewhere there's a dam that's going to burst. And remember what I said about the dams? I said it on my last Tuesday show. Dams that I believe the globalist or somebody in that globalist category has their eye on land. And we know what that leads to. We know what that's led to in the past. Oklahoma is going to have record-breaking tornado activity. And just shrink this because I feel like there's this hurricane. It's coming up this way. Of course, they're going to tell us it's going to turn like they did with Sandy, but it's not. They're going to say, oh, it's going out to sea, but it's not. It's going to turn. This may be going directly towards New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. It's kind of this area. I'm pulled. This whole coast just feels like it's all in jeopardy this season, including Florida. Come on, move up. All right, Google Earth, I'm not really happy with you right now. Come on, what are you doing? We'll just shrink you, that's all. The islands is where I was trying to get to. The islands of Key West and down in that lower region. Because it feels like Key West and the Keys are just getting hit with one system after another. It partially feels a bit manipulative to me. Like manipulate it in some way. It's going to be a lot of huge earthquake activity that's coming here in the Cayman Islands. And this is one of the areas, somewhere in this area, where I feel like one of these big volcanic eruptions is going to occur. And I don't know where there are volcanoes. Again, I'm not no expert. I'm just getting pulled to certain areas and intuitively. And yeah, I feel like something's happening over here, and this could be the area of the globe where we see one of those big volcanoes being one of the two that erupt before the one under the sea. I see something coming right in here through Costa Rica. Costa Rica, Panama, some type of system. Perhaps a hurricane system of some sort. It feels pretty intense. Heavy, heavy winds, 100-mile-per-hour winds, blowing things. And I get the same for part of Puerto Rico. Yeah, Puerto Rico. I feel like something's coming out down here and kind of swooping upwards. Swooping upwards right towards Florida. Just as you see. Hopefully you can see my pointer in this. You should be able to. I feel like it's like developing over here somewhere. And it's coming along this line. Coming straight up, clipping Puerto Rico, and heading right across to Florida. I think that's Miami right there, or close, right above Miami. I feel like it's kind of going up above. And it may break up by the time it gets there, but it feels pretty significant to me. Pretty significant to me. And I can sit here and gaze at this map all day, but I want to keep this video a bit short because we do weather predictions and usually talk about the Earth quite often on Tuesday's show. Make sure you tune in every Tuesday. And then as we see storms develop, especially hurricanes, of course, I'm going to go on and talk about those, their potential. And now we're going to look at some of the hurricanes. And yeah, let's just stop here for now. Let's take a look at some of the hurricane names and the numerology revolved around these hurricanes and the potential of their impact. Now let us take a closer look at hurricanes, the names of hurricanes, and what's going to be happening in hurricane season, both on the Atlantic Basin and on the Eastern Pacific Basin. So according to, I guess, the Weather Service, they're predicting a total named storms of 17 to 25 in the Atlantic Basin. Now, there's only 20 on the list, or 21, 2021, so that would mean they'd have to move on to the second list. I don't feel like that's necessarily the case. They say that there's going to be 8 to 13 hurricanes in all in the Atlantic Basin. I'm going to go with 9. 9 just feels like a good number. Now, major hurricanes, category 3 or higher, they're saying 4 to 7. I'm going to go with 9. Again, that 9 feels really good to me. It is a 9 year too, by the way. Now, in the Eastern Pacific Basin, the total named storms, 14 to 20, which is interesting because that list has more names on it, I think by 1 or 2 more names than the Atlantic, but they're calling for more in the Atlantic. I disagree. I say there's going to be a couple dozen. Now, they say hurricanes, 7 to 10. I'm going to go with a dozen. And then major hurricanes, 3 to 5. I'm going to go with 7. They're my numbers. Now, they've retired a couple names. They retired Beryl, which is a 8 vibration in numerology. They retired Milton, which happens to be an 11. I tell you about those 11, friends. And then they also retired John, which John is the only hurricane I could find that had a 2 vibration. Of all the hurricanes that were retired, there's none. Even the ones for this year, next year, none have a 2. They have an 11. And 11, of course, does break down to the 2, but we always look at the 11 first. And the 11, if you look at major storms that come in on the 11 days, we had Hurricane Katrina, came in on an 11 day. What's more interesting is Katrina, the name, is also on an 11 vibration. So you got double 11s there. So the 29th of the month is an 11. We had Hurricane Sandy that came in on October 29th, an 11 day. So we always have to be aware of storms that are coming in on the 11 days, the 11th and the 29th. Or if there's a hurricane coming your way that's even a 22, take cover. It's going to be serious. And we'll see right now, and I'll show you why. So let's take a look at the list first. This is the list for the hurricanes for this year, for the Atlantic hurricane seasons. You see their names. Let me make that a little bigger so I can see it better. And this year we have, what jumped out at me first and foremost, Dexter jumped out at me. Even though that's early in season, but Dexter did jump out at me. And Dexter is a 4 vibration. Then we have Karen. Karen's the only 22 or 11 vibration in the Atlantic names this year. Now the Pacific names, the names, the 11s and 22s, wait until you see that list. Karen jumped out at me, but so did Jerry. That whole from Imelda, Jerry, Karen, those 3 in a row jumped out at me. And then so did Sebastian. And I would tell you that if Hurricane Karen is heading in your direction, take cover big time, friends. No matter where you are, it's going to be devastating. Will Karen touch land? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But they're the ones that jump out at me the most. Now let's look at the list for the Pacific. And I had to make this list myself. And there we have it. Now look at all these. And look at all the 22s and 11s. We have Alvin, which already passed and was a big nothing burger. But we have Lorena. We have Mario right in a row, 2 11s. Oh, there is a 2, Narda. I didn't see that. Oh, wait, there's 2 2s. There's also Tico. I must have missed those. But anyway, we have Mario, we have Sonia, and we have Wallace. So friends, on the Pacific side, these are the ones you want to avoid if they're coming your way. Lorena, Mario, Wallace, and of course Sonia. Now, which ones jumped out at me the most? Lorena jumped out at me. That might just be because I like that name. It reminds me of Lorena McKennitt. Love her. If you have never heard of her, check out her music. But Lorena and Mario both jumped out. And they're both back-to-back 11s. So they will be big storms, likely. It's depending on whether they hit land or not. Mario feels to me that it may hit near Mexico, somewhere in Mexico. I feel like it's maybe in that Baja area. So if you're in Mexico or in that Baja area or anywhere that Mario's heading, take cover, retreat quickly. The other ones that jumped out at me, Priscilla jumped out at me strong. The 3 in a row, actually. Priscilla, Raymond, and Sonia. So I feel like there are going to be 3 big significant systems that come in to play. I don't know if we'll even get down to Wallace, but if Wallace comes in, we'll have to keep an eye out. So again, the concerns would be Lorena and Mario. Big concerns. I'm not really concerned with the first part of that list. Henrietta jumped out at me, but I don't know why. It could have just been the name. It wasn't so much a vibe, so to speak. Lorena was the big one, and Mario that jumped out at me the most. Those 2. And even Narda felt significant, but it didn't feel significant enough to hit land. And if I were to pick the big ones off this list, it's going to be Mario, Priscilla, and Raymond. Perhaps even Sonia comes in the end. So we'll have to wait and see. But here's how we're going to compare it. And we'll go back to these again in a minute, friends. I want to compare it to the list that I created just for you beautiful souls. It took me a while to do this list, let me tell you. This is a list, as you see here. On the left side, we have Category 4 storms. These are all storms that are retired from the list, no longer there. And then the number's a little far away there, sorry, but the number, vibration it is in numerology. And then we have the Category 5 storms. I had to go back a little bit further in decades to make them equal on both sides. Because, of course, there's more Category 4s than there are 5s. But Spirit says that's going to change. Soon there will be many more Category 5s. And I told you in the past, eventually there's going to be a change in the category systems. There's going to be a change in the categories of hurricanes. There's going to be a change in the categories of tornadoes. And there's also going to be some kind of changes with earthquake monitoring. That'll actually be better according to spirits. And that may be changed to a completely different system. Instead of, what do we do now? Magnitude. I'm sure it'll still be magnitude. But it feels like a different decimal system or something. So we'll have to wait and see. Going back to this list. Now you can see lots of 22s on that list. Lots of 11s. Compare the left side, category 4s to the category 5s. Look at all the earthquakes on the category 5s that are retired that were 11s and 22s. A ton, friends. A ton. To be exact, there is a total in all the storms of 5 storms that are 11 vibrations and 4 storms that are 22 vibrations. So altogether, and that's both category 4 and category 5. If we were to separate them, there's only one storm that's category 11 in the category 4, 111 and 122. But when we move over to category 5 storms, there's 4 retired names that were 11 vibration and 3 that were 22. So we can tell just by looking at this that 11 and 22 storms are always really big ones when they form into hurricanes, huge ones. And if they're hitting land, chances are they're going to end up to be, of course, a category 4 or category 5. So even if they tell you a storm's coming and it's category 3 and we know it's one of these storms with these 11 vibrations or 22 vibrations, we know it's going to be a heck of a lot bigger even when it hits land. They said that about, I forget, was it Sandy? Oh, it won't gain strength. It don't gain strength when it hits land and then it gains strength. They say stuff like that all the time. Now, here's the list. I put it all together for you here. And on the far right, you'll see all the storms that are category 4 at the top. And it's all the numbered vibrations. So, for example, you see that there was one storm, category 4, retired, that was a 1 vibration. There were none that were 2 vibrations. There was 1 that was a 3 vibration. You see the whole list all the way down. So now when we look at the other list, what I have there is times 2, so equals 3. So this is category 5 storms. And out of the category 5 storms, we have the most popular one, the 6 vibration. Isn't that interesting? The 6 vibration storms are the ones that are the most common retired. I would have never expected that, friends. Now, I would have expected the 11. And the 11 does come in number 2. We're going back decades of storms here, friends. Decades of storms. And 5 of them retired storms are 11s. 4 are 22. We can put those 2 storm categories together, the 11 and the 22, so there's 9 altogether. So we'll say that is actually literally the most common retired names are 9 and 11 vibration storms. Or, I'm sorry, not 9 and 11. 11 and 22. Lordy. 11 and 22. Where'd I get that 9-11 from? 11 storms. 9s actually fall on the list 4 times, as does 7s. But 6s is the most common. A total of 9 storms between category 4 and category 5 that were 9, that were 6 vibration. 9 storms. And again, coming in tie is the 11s and the 22s. Below that, the most next common would be the 8 vibration. I would have never expected that either. The 8 vibration. You notice the low numbers, there's barely any. The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, barely any. But when we get to the 6, the 7, the 8, and the 9, it moves up in numbers. So let's go back to the list. Let's go back to this list for the Pacific. Again, Alvin's already passed. So we got Lorena. We got Mario, Sonia, and Wallace. And I bet you 2 of those hit land this year. 2 of those hurricanes. Which 2 will it be? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I believe it's going to be the 11 and the 22. I think it might be Lorena and Mario right in a row. One hit in one area, one hit in the next. And I feel like Mario's hitting Mexico. Now, what was the other common number? The 6 vibration. The only 6 vibration on this list is York. Could we get that far down the list? And what was the next common one after that was the 8 vibration. And there's no 8s on this list either, is there? No. Now let's go back to the Atlantic list. So we have 2 8s in a row. Fernand and Gabrielle. Gabrielle did jump out at me. Karen jumped out at me the most, probably because she's 22 like me. Karen's the one to look out for. But we also have Imelda is a 6. Lorenzo, Melissa. Lots of 6s on this list. And quite a few 8s too. Olga jumped out at me. I forgot about her. I don't know why I didn't see you tucked away up there. So the ones to look at on this list once again. Gabrielle. Karen. Lorenzo. Even Melissa. Because those 3 in a row feel like they're significant. They're probably all going to be out at the ocean at the same time. That's probably why they feel significant. Likely Karen will be the one to touch land. And if she does again, look out. Especially if it's on an 11 or 22 day like Hurricane Katrina. Katrina's an 11 vibration. It came in on an 11 day. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, friends. And look what happened. They took advantage of that double 11. And 11 and 11 is 22, of course. But that's the list of hurricanes. Now, what I feel is going to happen, again, as I said in the map scrying. But that's what I have for you for now, friends. Remember to catch me every Tuesday so that you can catch Tea Time. Talk about the weather all the time. Pinpoint places all the time and other predictions. You want to catch that each and every week. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Show your love. And if you're new to the tribe, welcome to the tribe, baby. You will not be disappointed. We are so happy to have you with us. Until the next time, friends, remember to be bold, be true, be kind, be you. Let your light shine ever so brightly. And have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love, friends. Much love.